account just to show you in this episode. I want to encourage people to join the server. And now, let's get to it. First, Palm is vanilla friendly, okay? It's completely vanilla accessible. You don't need any mods to get it and to use it. That being said, for a better experience, I encourage you to use these if you want to. Better networking and Dungeon Splitter are a must, to be honest. They help make some of Valheim's worst issues more palatable. So they're quite important, quite useful, okay? And then the others are more quality of life. For reasons I won't explain right now, equipment and quick slots is very genuinely useful, and first person mode just allows you to experience more beauty that Valheim has to offer, alright? So, you can make a new character or you can join on an existing character. The purpose of this episode is to make joining Palm a more processable experience. So you'll find the Discord information. That's sort of a puzzle, but I'm pretty sure you can figure it out. It's not that hard, but you can do it. Just look in descriptions and find channels and stuff, okay? Good luck. We're gonna get started. We have our new character, we have our basic quality of life, better networking mods installed, so we can begin. And you're going to go and log into Path of Magic. Then you'll just need to enter the password, which you will find. It is publicly accessible. Just, let's say, a little bit of inconvenience, you know? And that's why I want to make this video, because Path of Magic isn't for everybody. It's really for people who are more interested in a more long-term Valheim experience that is adjusted in many, many, many ways. Now, I'm not going to say that Palm is like a finished, polished product, because it's not, and it's also not a product. It's just a way to get more depth out of your Valheim world. But it is something that has been produced not just with my efforts, but other people's efforts at this point for almost 12 months, and a lot of crazy stuff has happened. Believe it or not, there's 3,600 changed adjustments at the moment. And more coming, right? So when you first join, you'll come to a center of the world that is completely lacking in boss stones, which is something I'll get to. And most of this video, I'm just going to be surviving, traveling down the path, talking to you about the general mentality of Palm. So when you join, you can use this runestone, and you'll be told you're on Path of Magic. Congratulations. Yeah. Can you tell that I like Dark Souls? So I'm not saying you have to like Dark Souls, but Palm is like an attempt to rework the parts of Valheim that make it very temporary. All right? And what do I mean by that? Well, let me put it this way. You see, in Valheim, there's a lot of things mechanically that make you go from one biome to the other, and then you sort of run out, and then, you know, you're at the end of the game. Yeah? Also, there's a lot of things like dungeons don't respawn, all these other things. I'm not saying they're bad. You know, they make the player, they sort of force the player to go around and everything, right? I'm testing a completely different mentality. So, on Path of Magic, the idea is that Valheim shines with building, combat, exploration, right? That's what makes it great. But really, the thing that people seem to really love about Valheim, more often than not at least, is building. The problem, though, is that Valheim itself doesn't really encourage you to build that much. And the idea on Palm is to rework the gameplay loop, so that instead of doing the loop of progressing to a boss, fighting them, getting the item for the next thing, instead, you explore, progress down the path, and then do dungeons. And the dungeons are deeper, and they have different stuff than you're used to, and they have a lot more resources. And you can reset them. You just build a pile of coins in front of them, and it resets the whole dungeon, re-rolls it as a different seed, different layout, different items, and all sorts of different things can happen There's even different variations of dungeons, so you won't see them all just by re-rolling it a couple times. And the idea is to create a loop where anybody can find a spot that they love and it's close to a dungeon. And then in doing this, we can make a loop where you can raid dungeons and then build stuff, and raid dungeons and build stuff, and raid dungeons and build stuff. In general, when one joins Path of Magic, first people kind of join and maybe it's not for you. You don't know yet. You're trying to figure out if Palm is your, so to speak, cup of tea. You're trying to figure out if Palm is your cup of tea, right? You got to join and explore and get a feel for it. And that's why you can do this on any character. I'm going to do it on a brand new character just to give you a more accurate feel for what happens when you join, and so that you can understand what my intentions are. Because Palm can be a very violent, dangerous, unforgiving place. But I do everything I can to make the meadows themselves as safe as they can possibly be. So keep that in mind, that if something happens to you in the meadows, tell me, because I'm not trying to make any problems for players in the meadows. I believe that danger is only as useful as the safety a player has available to experience and retreat back into away from that danger. You can't just flood the player with danger. You have to also give them a lot of tools to combat that danger, to deal with it. And this is the key to keeping a world be more immersive in the long time. The world itself needs to be fundamentally dangerous, and this adds an increased depth of learning what is necessary to be able to survive it. Right? Hey, thank you, Nicholas. Thank you. So when people first join, this is, let's call it the greeting in. This path that you see here, it actually goes all the way to the Ashlands, and even through the entirety of the Ashlands. You can experience every biome, and even the deepest parts of every biome that Valheim has to offer, just walking down one single path. And players have built in all sorts of areas. You'll find old ruined player bases. And this is no map, no portal mode, so like I said, it's an unforgiving world. And in general, when you first join, you'll spend some time kind of just exploring down the path, getting a feel for things, and finding some other bases people have already made that you can get a checkpoint in, just make a bed somehow, or just claim an existing one, right? So here we can find, let's see, boop-a-doop-a-doop, somewhere here, there we go. This is the first entry area that's communal, right? And pretty much you can just keep traveling down the path. But obviously, first thing you join, people are going to be like, well, this is Valheim. We got to kill Eikthyr, Because that's what people do when they play Valheim. They want to get the pickaxe and they kill Eikthyr. And I'm here to warn you. The progression in Path of Magic is completely different than in base Valheim. In base Valheim, you kill a boss, you get an item, you go to the next biome. You kill that boss, you get that item, you go to the next biome. And this cycle repeats itself, which has an unfortunate effect of invalidating previous biomes in ways that might not be necessary, okay? But on Path of Magic, instead, we have something, let's call them boss chests. Now, boss chests are these things. Let's read it. What does it say? This is the chest of the Eikthyr. 100 wood, 30 flint, a boar trophy, and a neck trophy. So in Path of Magic, the boss altars, which this is, I know it's a bit decked out, but this is actually an Eikthyr altar. Don't mind all these dead remains. This is the Eikthyr boss altar. It's just blinged out a bit, right? And there's 2 statues. That could be symbolic of something. Maybe that's a warning. Can you tell that these deer have death in their eyes? Can you see it? Can you feel it? I can feel it. Terror. The writhing terror. You'll understand. You'll understand. But basically, each boss has a boss chest. So it's sort of like a little quest. Instead of fighting the boss and killing it, you have to gather materials from that biome and bring them and then just put them in the chest. And I don't have this to show you because I'm on a vulnerable new character with nothing, but this is what you would do to get the Ether progression item. And that's it. It's pretty simple. So you start, and instead of killing Ether, you do this. Now, don't get me wrong. You can try and kill Eek, but let's just say there's reasons that there's all of these. And in general, I guess that's a good, what's it called, transition to the next thing to talk about, which is the idea behind the bosses in Path of Magic. Because what happens to the bosses if they're not involved in progression, right? Like I've mentioned, we do these boss chests here. It's like a quest. You turn in some items, and then you get the boss progression thing. But you don't just get the boss progression thing. It's like a care pack, a care package, a survival package. You get all sorts of other stuff, and a lot of it's related to all the other mechanics, none of which I've even shown any of that are available to anybody without any mods on Path of Magic. You'll see what I mean. Like, so far this has been pretty tame stuff, nothing too crazy. But just you wait. I mean, I'll give you a little taste of it here. So if I equip this and unequip it, there's that, right? You see that little, like, animation? Wow. That's essentially what Path of Magic is. Expand World Prefabs allows you to script the server to react to what the vanilla game does. That's why you can make customized experiences while the player is completely vanilla. And this is a very interesting circumstance because the player will start thinking they're playing Valheim the way they're used to. And so even if you tell them every single thing that's available or what to do, they're still going to test it by trying to play Valheim the way they're used to playing Valheim. And there's a lot of other things available here. So in this case, this is Nauma's base, a really beautiful, very unique base. I've learned a lot from seeing this. It's, I think, one of the only, like, actually no, some of the other builders build stuff like this as well, but it's just like a beautiful garden where each area has its own section instead of just being one big old place. It's really awesome. You should definitely check it out. It's a great example of being creative building. But here we have something else. This is an arena that was recently constructed by Ping, which shows off a few of the mechanics. So you're going to be seeing a lot of Dverger here. And notice how this is called a trader. Well, that's because all Dverger, the ones you find, the ones you summon, yes, you can summon Dverger, all these things on Path of Magic are traders. You can sell things to them for coins, and if you want to ask how much they buy something for, you can toss it and then they'll tell you. In this case, they don't buy raspberries, so I can do something else. Like, here we go. How much will this buy a trophy for? I can toss it to him, and then he tells me, all right, if you get 10 of these, you'll get 500 coins. So that means I can come back and I can get 10 of these trophies and he'll pay me 500 coins for them. And it's not just that trophy, it's loads of other things. The mentality with this system is basically everything that accumulates that normally ends up becoming useless, make it convertible into coins, and then coins themselves are part of an important part of the gameplay loop. Because as I mentioned earlier, Valheim itself doesn't really encourage the player very much to build. It doesn't teach the player that they can build. It doesn't teach them that building is available to them. It sort of requires them to build some basic shelters, but that's it. And if you don't think that's true, that's fine. But play a game like Dragon Quest Builders 2. I was not a builder, so to speak. I didn't believe in myself in Valheim as a builder until I played Dragon Quest Builders 2. That game showed me that this nonsense that people are or aren't builders is all bullshit. And they're just people. And there's a lot of fun you can have building. And Valheim can encourage players to build more, right? But how do we do that? How does that occur? I believe that it has to do with the respawning loops in the game and the replayability of each game world itself. Because in the long run, Valheim is highly replayable. You can play it like a board game, you know? Play it for 2 months, put it down, go do something else. Come back, play it again in some different way, some different mod, you know? Whatever, right? It already works very well when used that way. When used within its design specifications, so to speak. That is exactly what it was designed for. Valheim was not designed to be on a server running long term with a world that persists for more than a year. It's just not how it was designed, right? But we can rework that. And one of the things that I believe is that building plays a critical role in it. But how do we encourage the players to build? Well, I've found that a lot of problems happen with building in Valheim. One of those main problems is that people build things and then the buildings don't end up actually getting used. And this causes them to feel very superficial. So, by having a world be more dangerous... I didn't see how close that troll was. By having a world be more dangerous, it makes the feelings of the buildings more epic, more real. And that combined with the no map, no portal mode makes the geography so much more relevant. Right? Yannick, yeah, exactly, Yannick, good point, the timing. So a great opportunity to show off a mechanic though. On Path of Magic, one of the things I don't like about Valheim is when you die, you come back with no food, and I don't think there's any benefit to the player having a 25 stamina, 25 food experience. So when you die and come back on a bed, you'll get a food item for stamina based on the biome that you're in. So pretty much, I just got honey for free, right? And yeah, I know that means players could just kill themselves and farm honey that way. But you know what? That's the mentality here. There's things that you can do that allow you to do other things. My mentality on Palm really is to give people more options, to give the player more tools. Make sense? Yeah, I'm still... I don't know, honestly, I saw the third troll. There was actually a third troll off in the distance, and I was like, oh gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to stay alive and manage all of this. Like, there's just no way. Mostly because I wasn't running. I was just like auto-walking like this, like scenically, you know what I mean? Which is doable, but it's definitely more challenging. And that is a good lead up to how you can travel down the path in general when you join. If you just run down the path, as you saw, you're gonna just get wrecked. Something's gonna happen and you'll have to redo parts of it, right? So as you go, you want to look for areas like these areas that I neglected earlier that almost certainly have spaces for beds. And there's often pre-built areas that people have made that you can use, right? And even if not, let's just say you're not going to find very many wards inside people's bases in Path of Magic. You're just not going to. So the reality on Palm is it's pretty communal. For the most part, it's about experiencing, traveling down the path in this no map, no portal, more dangerous world. And what seems to work well is to find areas, to find spots that you just feel something for, you know? You get that itch to build something there, right? And this first part of the path is called the Town Meadows. I've learned in previous server situations that you can't really just have players all build a regular town that's close to each other. it doesn't work effectively. And if you tell them not to, it doesn't matter. They're still going to do the same thing and build out the instance limit to absurd quantities. Like, even right now, it's 12K. It's about as high as you want to get. Like 8K. There we go. Now we're in a new area, and it's at 8K. That's much better. You don't want to get more in a communal town area. You really, really don't. And the easiest way you can help your players is by being suggestive, right? So you see there's these sort of plots. Like, we've passed a couple of them, right? Like, here's one plot. There's another one over there. And by doing these things, you give people a suggestion of how far away they should space their bases. And it's not like people have to listen to it. You know, it's not going to, like, stuff isn't just going to get destroyed on purpose because they didn't put it in the thing and they broke the rule. Like, that's not the point. The point is to help naturally spread players out so that they get to experience more of the better parts of Valheim, because Valheim does have problems in the multiplayer experience. So I found that you really want to separate areas of combat from areas of multiplayer building. Because you can have a lot of people building in the same area and it be laggy, and it doesn't really screw the experience up that much. But as soon as you have a lot of people in an area and someone's trying to fight monsters, that's when Valheim gets rough. So it's better to make it so that sort of just happens to occur away from the town for some unforeseen reason the player doesn't really think about or notice, right? That's the mentality here. And now, as you can see, things are more dangerous. And I recently redid everything here. So this is all refreshed vegetation, refreshed trolls, fresh sticks, long range sticks. Yeah. Yeah. I learned my lesson last time, mister. Hey, you can chill. You can chill. This is too far away, right? Oh yeah, I don't have any loot to worry about. That's so much easier. Corpse run. Yeah, screw you, Blue. Big old Blue, you can go do something else. I don't have to fight you. I can just run. So this is one of Jake's places. And at this point, there's a lot of really cool builds. So if you ever want to just join, dang, that Verger did work to that troll. If you ever just want to join to explore stuff, I mean, I can tell you some places to go that people have built some crazy stuff. And like, basically what I've found is that by having a big path, you funnel players in a way that Valheim is missing. As I mentioned, Valheim itself tends to not really encourage players to build that much. It gives players a basic mechanical incentive to build in the beginning, right? You're gonna want to build because, you know, something or other. You need shelter. But that's pretty much it. Maybe you want some more comfort, right? But realistically, if you're like me and you die every 5 minutes, I mean, the default rested buff is 8 minutes. So for me, I as a player, I experience no reward from getting increased comfort or anything. So just disregard all these bodies on the path. No, it's not. You know, it's not like the Black Forest is a forest of untold death and abominations and destruction and undead. It's not like, oh god, I didn't have that timing. What is up with it? Yeah. So, you know, I may have developed a lot of stuff on Palm, but there's so many systems and mechanics and interactions that it plays me. Like, it absolutely plays me. You were right, Nicholas. It did notice me. It did notice me. But in general, as you're gonna see, we'll see. I died a little bit earlier than I expected earlier, but it worked out. It's alright. So in general, on Palm, it's really dangerous, but there's a lot of faction fighting. There's a lot of things fighting other things, and if you play your cards right, you can almost always get away or have something fight something else. You know, but I'll talk a little bit about the dungeons and oh god, what did I do something to why are there so many trolls everywhere? I'll talk a bit about the dungeons and the overall experience of the Black Forest. Because, as I mentioned, yeah, the meadows are safe places. It's true. It's true. But the Black Forest is a lot more dangerous than what you're used to. And recently, we actually we had to help out these guys, these Grey Dwarf friends of ours, let's say, because you may have seen the hordes of undead. The Black Forest, it was just filled with undead, just filled with them because of the burial chambers and the way that works. I'll get into that later. So recently, I was like, all right, what if instead of toning that down, we tone the poor little Grey Dwarfs up? Because the Grey Dwarfs should have some power in the Black Forest. You know, they should be strong. And I like the idea of the Black Forest being in like this sort of war or this struggle between the undead and the Grey Dwarves. And so they're constantly like fighting each other, right? And that's the idea. And you'll find that you can stay alive more easily by taking advantage of that reality. And this is actually the live streaming base on Labrat's playthrough, which is the playthrough I'm doing on the live stream most of the time. This is the base that we came to, and the others, especially Star and Teens, and Ping has done some stuff as well, and some others. They've all been here and built it out. Most of the design is Star's. It's very beautiful. And then Teens came in here with eternal torches at some point. So now we actually have good lighting. So when I come in here, it just feels like, dang, really pops, you know? But as I mentioned, whenever you find a place, you'll probably find it has more beds than you're used to. Home is very much a place that you need to work together in order to stay alive. You need to share things. And there's a lot of things to accommodate sharing. So it's sort of up to you to figure out what parts of Valheim do you want to play. I have the mentality that Valheim is a game that occurs in the meadows, the Black Forest, and a little bit of the mountain. No, sorry, the meadows and the Black Forest, the mountain, and a little bit of the swamp, and a little bit of the plains. That's the predominant bulk of the game. And instead of trying to force players into the rest of the game, into the Mistlands and the Ashlands, Palm has the mentality of bringing all of that to you. So this place, this is completely constructed, aside from the iron that we got from the crypt, everything you see here, even like this sort of stuff, this was all built by getting things from dungeons. There's a whole purchase system that you can use coins to buy building materials. So you can get Grouston, Ashwood, all of these things earlier on in the game. You don't have to go to the Ashlands. You can just acquire coins and then get that by selling different things, right? So if we go into this nonsense chest here, oh gosh, it looks like someone has sorted things. How am I supposed to use an example now? Someone's been all organizing. What am I supposed to do? What can I sell? Let's see. There's got to be something I can sell here. Let's see. We can find some treasure. Here we go. Here's sellable things. As I mentioned earlier, in Path of Magic, you can sell things to Diverger, right? And if you give them a little bit, you toss it at them, they'll tell you what they'll pay for a full stack, right? In this case, for 20 of these, we'll get 100 coins. So let's toss 20, and then, whoa, we get 100 coins. And then look at that, boom. Automatic 100 coins. Don't worry about why this guy's in a cage. It's for his own safety. You'll learn all about Diverger mechanics, but I'm not going to get into all of them. Palm has more mechanics than I could list to you in an hour. As I mentioned, there are over 3,600 changes. And at this point, there's so many other mechanics I could show you, but I don't want to get lost in that. I want to show you the basic loop of when you join Path of Magic and what you need to know about so that you can survive. And pretty much, this is it. This is how it starts. You explore down the path, you get a feel for it, because Palm isn't for everybody. So now, let me talk a little bit about the sort of design philosophy with Path of Magic and the influences for it. So in particular, I'm personally influenced a lot by games that are older. I apparently hate, to be honest. I don't hate anything. I guess that's a strong word. But new games just don't do it for me. I don't know. There's just something about the corruption in the industry and all of the ridiculous absurdity of it. I love games from like the 90s to maybe the 2010s. It's like this awesome period of gaming where loads of awesome things were created and produced that I haven't experienced yet. And I've been hugely influenced by games that are old, like Fallout. Recently I've been playing Fallout 1. And games like Daggerfall, these other games like Dark Souls, they had this like merciless, make you feel like you're in a world that is in danger. There's this vibe to them, and I had this experience a couple times where it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm playing this game, whatever, it's just a game, alright, game is a game, alright, I don't give a shit, it's just some flashy game, there's millions of other games. See so many mobile ads and PC ads and all sorts of this other stuff, right? All sorts of this kind of thing. But then something in the game kills me. And there's something about that moment where I realize that I can die. And what's so funny about it is the game doesn't need to punish me artificially. I don't know why all these games think that we need to punish players artificially. Like, usually just the inconvenience of, like, dying and one layer of cost, like getting your stuff back or whatever, that's enough. You don't need to do more than that. And it's not punishment, I don't think works really. That's not what's going on. But something magical happens, and I think it has to do with human psychology. And it's that our mind is wired to protect us. And all of us have these inherent similarities as humans that everybody has to understand if you want to develop games or if you want to encourage players and understand their behavior. You have to understand the similarities that all human psychologies inherently have in common, right? And people's minds work in many common, similar ways. One of those ways is that we try and escape danger. Instinctually, we try and escape danger. So the moment that a game kills you, something changes, and it makes a deep part of your consciousness aware that you can die. And it's almost as if a part of you doesn't realize for a moment that it's a game, and your brain's like, oh shit, what if I'm wrong? What if this isn't a game? What if this is real? I have to take this seriously. Boom, immersion. That's how I look at it. And I know maybe you think that's nonsense, you know, maybe you think that's absurd. Maybe you're asking why there's so many dangerous things in this forest, why I haven't eaten any food. You know, there's a lot of things in life that remain mysterious and aren't worth bothering with, okay? You should focus on the things that matter, like making it down the path and out of the most dangerous part into one of the next meadows, because there's actually a bunch of meadows on this first part of the path. In general, I think that sailing is a beautiful part of Valheim that's incredibly fun. So is exploration. These are both awesome, incredible experiences that Valheim has to offer people. But I don't think there's much benefit in forcing it down people's throats. I don't think that it's necessary to force people to sail. I think that it's better to rely on people wanting to sail, to rely on people wanting to explore, and to give them what they need to be able to do so. You don't want to force people into these situations. I know that games, by their very nature, are inherently a bit forceful with certain mechanics, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. And it really shouldn't be. There's only a couple situations where that's alright. In general, the game should force players into doing things as little as possible, and it should give players options to do things that they enjoy. As you travel down and find different checkpoints, you'll come across a lot of dangerous things that'll kill you. But in between dying and running away from things that are going to kill you, you may occasionally come across these plots. Well, a lot of the buildings that you saw earlier started out as these kind of plots. If you're lucky, you get one of the special ones that has an invincible fence. But if you're unlucky, your fence is not invincible. And that's just kind of life. Life not fair. This isn't fair. Some of your fences are going to get wrecked. Some of them will be there eternally. That's just how life is. As you go around, you'll find those little spots. And I placed them by looking around and trying to find spots that were like, that looks like someone would want to build a base there. And they're consistently placed throughout the meadows. There's actually 3 meadows in this central area. We're going through there's actually 4 meadows. I forgot about the side meadow. And we're going through now one of the most southern meadows. So this is the last. I don't know if you're going to see any meadows moving forward. So good luck, because here begins the sky path. And this is a concept that plays itself out and reveals how it's possible that you can walk all the way to the Ashlands. How there is a path that goes all the way. Because certain portions of the path are sky path, like this. They go above the land. And I've found that this makes no map more enjoyable. No map, no portal. There's something about the magic of traveling down a path. There's just something inherently human about it. It's satisfying. And what I've learned is that people tend to want to maybe be able to build things. And for buildings, it's not really that beneficial to build buildings for people. Because as I mentioned, a lot of people have fun, you know? They have fun by actually building things, right? But often what happens is people build things, and if you build too many things for other people, you actually take away the very thing that you enjoy Valheim for. And I've seen this trope play out a lot in Valheim. People over-prepare a lot, and Valheim is a game about preparation. So it's important to understand that when you take that preparation away from other players, if you do it too much, you take away the very part of the game that you enjoy for other people. You know, it's an interesting dynamic. I don't know what to call it, right? And Constantine says, JP, the path of magic has become the path of stones and trees. Yes, you're right. Occasionally, I refresh the vegetation. And basically, there's a couple reasons I've learned to do this. One is that Palm is inherently a place that people come and go to. There's periods where there's less players, periods where there's more players, etc., etc., etc. And over time, it evolves. And some people leave and never come back. And I really enjoy when there's sort of, how do we say, ruins, right? Where there's situations where you can see where players once were. And I always liked the idea of that. When I used to play Valheim, I remember thinking, well, what if we could see each other's ruins, you know? What if we could see each other's, I don't know, buildings somehow from other players when they built before in the past or whatever. And I didn't realize that that would naturally happen. You can recreate a world that actually has almost like a decay of sorts, and things regrow and nature takes over. That's so possible with Valheim. And so the nature coming back, it helps with a couple of things. One is that when people play in Valheim, a lot of things get destroyed. And it starts looking really sad and neglected, to be honest, especially in areas where there's a lot of fighting. So you have to do a lot of maintenance, and it's incredibly time consuming unless you do like vegetation resets and this sort of thing. So if you go around doing stuff bit by bit, it's inordinately time consuming to like use terrain commands and fix things that people have done that, like, as I mentioned, like, you have to understand that every individual player is coming and having an experience and leaving imprints on the world. But each person who joins, they can sometimes behave in ways that in the long run make the game worse for other people. That's why I find it important in Valheim to have attrition. And that's a fundamental part of Palm. It's honestly, it's something I should probably mention, because if you don't understand or value attrition and why that happens, then your experience in Palm is probably going to be frustrating. Because there's very few things in Palm that you just do once. Like, even just building a forge. Your forges break when you use them sometimes. Things break, they get destroyed. And there's nothing you can do to fully prevent that from happening. So you can learn how the mechanics work and make it happen less frequently. But ultimately, that's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. And the reason for that is because Valheim has too many one-time things. You get something once, and then it becomes invalid when you get the next thing. And this causes a very temporary feeling in the game. And it's one of the things that I work on a lot with Path of Magic, is figuring out how you can make it so players have to do things multiple times. But it takes some balance, because you can't do it too often. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just do it all the time that way. But you do need it. It's kind of like the danger and safety thing. A lot of things have that kind of dynamic or duo. You need danger to make safety feel worth it, and you also need safety to make danger feel worth experiencing. It's a common trope, let's say, that unfolds in, I guess, human interaction as well, but in games in particular. Let's see, do I have enough health? I don't think I can make it through this mountain spot without more health food. One second. There's more health food in the basement of this place. And in general, when you find places, like, Palm for the most part is highly, highly communal. So, especially when you're on a path like this, like, you can just use things that you come across. And it's sort of up to you to determine your progression, your base progression. Because if you let it, like, as I mentioned, other players, like, tend to build out things a lot. And you'll find things a lot earlier. And, like, if you are a person who needs to only be exposed to the progression that you've experienced, you're not going to like it here, you know? Like, for me, I leave things up to the player. I believe that the world itself should allow lots of different play styles. And I learn from what players do, and I try and make the world more accommodating to that player style based on how that person behaves, because they represent a type of player, right? So if I can make the world more interesting to them without making it more harmful to others, then in the future, when people like them join, then they can have a better experience, right? And so that's like fun for me. It's what makes the game last. Like, I gave up trying to finish Palm because I saw that this loop that's occurring of playing and making mechanics and other people playing, and they tell me about their experiences and I react, and like fixing problems. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? Yeah, so Pan, this is an interesting topic. Pan says, we need more players who do progression ground up without taking high-level stuff from others. And, like, I don't know, like, why do we need that? People can just play how they're going to play. Like, the reality is this is a public server where there's communal bases. And for me to, as I mentioned, the thing that happens is people over-prepare. Valheim is fundamentally a game about over-preparation that often never ends up happening. So it's very, very easy for people to take that away, yeah, from other people. But again, like, that's the thing. Ultimately, it's you. You're the player. Yes, you can blame the environment for the Black Forge being there, but, like, I've learned, especially, I didn't hear him. I didn't hear the freaking wolf. I didn't hear him in time. I've learned especially in in these dynamics that, like, there's always going to be situations on public servers where the fact that people have different progressions, it's like a fight, honestly. And the way Valheim works in the base level encourages that in some ways, and it pits people against each other. And it's not on purpose, you know. I'm not saying that. I'm so not used to the feasts because I think of everything as stamina, health, eater, but the feasts are like, I mean, they're like balanced food. It's kind of weird. I'm not used to that. But that dynamic unfolds a lot, and like, I don't know, like, when I released the layer of Palm, yeah, it's cold start is completely different. It's way more challenging, right? But also, like, I think that will help balance, because the reality is, like, this is a super niche thing. This is a no map, no portal, custom scripted Valheim server. It's like the niche of a niche of a niche. It's like a pimple on your pimple on your pimple. You know, this isn't the kind of thing that is relevant to most people. Like, it just fundamentally is too specific, right? So when people actually play the thing I'll distribute, like the thing people will download for free and they can just put on their world, that's what ultimately all this playtesting is developing. When people do that, they're not gonna play on no map, no portal mode. Like, I know that they're gonna play on the world modifiers that they want to use and they want to enjoy. And I think that if I develop it on harder situations for that in mind, it will make it more robust, more reliable when played with other world modifiers. Whereas if I focus on, like, the making it easier, the opposite happens. And Valheim already has that experience. Like, the harder difficulty isn't balanced properly, so it's numerically more challenging. But that basically just invalidates certain mechanics and forces players to use more ranged. It's not balanced difficulty. Balanced difficulty is incredibly challenging in video games. It's not ever really possible to have a slider that numerically increases numbers that really truly feels balanced, because the way games work, you use mechanics, and it's all based on how you feel and your experiences combined with the difficulties, etc., etc., etc. So when things aren't balanced properly, they just numerically get harder and they change how you function. That's not always an enjoyable experience. It's not necessarily a more challenging experience either. You just learn to play in the different way for that difficulty, right? But what I'm getting at is that in Valheim in general, that sort of unfolds, and it's overbalanced. Valheim is, like, made too easy, so when you make it harder, you go out of the design scope. That's why, like, for Palm, I try and develop for very hard no map, no portal, because then it'll be easier to go back and, like, add mechanical things that influence portals, right? Because obviously, I attrit everything. That's one of the basics of keeping the world a place where you can build, and, like, the game of building, you're going to need to go get things multiple times on different occasions. You're going to need to have these kind of experiences, and there's whole mechanisms, right, in place to keep that happening. But with the building, people, yeah, they have to be reminded, you know, they have to be encouraged. And they need to feel like the world has more interest, and it's complicated because you can't just numerically make it harder. And that's a thing we'll get into. So after I make it through this dangerous swamp stretch, I'll talk about that. But for now, let's look at Majestic Bowler's comment. Majestic Bowler says, I started my second playthrough with Dragon Tier from previous game and 100 units of tar. This allows me to build all the workshops in the castle, even if I can't use them. Hey, that's awesome. Honestly, I don't blame you, because for me personally, Motor, it's kind of, I get a little bit frustrated with how much of the building stuff is gated behind Motor. It's intense, and, like, Again, that's an example of the game trying to force you into other biomes. I feel like you should be able to do something for a long time that gets you that stuff somewhere else, right? I think that is it's more, I don't know, it's just better. But that's what's beautiful about Valheim, you know, it allows you to customize things. And if anyone ever gives you crap for like spawning in with items or something, don't look. What matters is that you do something and you have fun with it. As long as it's not hurting someone else, don't give a crap. People just want to tell you how you should play, what's right and what's wrong. But deep down, that's because somebody told them what to do, and they couldn't do what they wanted. So now they need the world to feel fair, so they need to tell you what to do. But they're just suffering. That's how people are. So you should always just go with it. Like, if you really enjoy doing something, you should go with it, whether people say it's stupid or not. And I'll go on a little tangent here just about game development and enjoyment and happiness and satisfaction in life. If you just listen to what other people say, basically you're going to be miserable. You're going to feel like games are always copying, that they're never creative, that nothing ever happens, blah, 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 blah. That's all bullshit, 'cause you haven't played every game in existence, and there's so many games that you'd have to live out like 50, 60 human lifetimes to play all of them, even just for a bit, not even finishing them. I'm not saying you need to complete everything you ever do. That's some bullshit. You just need to have fun. That's what matters. Don't lose sight of the, like, why are you playing games? Because it should be for something you care about, something you enjoy. Not because you're sad and lonely and you're, like, distracting yourself from that by just throwing games and stimulation at your face all day. You know, like, we need more balance in our lives. And that's something that Valheim and Iron Gate, they help us with. And that's really cool, to be honest. It's very, very rare for that kind of thing. So Yannick asks, what mods do you currently use to play Path of Magic? So I will show you. One second. I'm in another tab. I hope I don't get wrecked here. I'm going to settings. I need to show. Yeah, I need to change my profile. There we go. Oh, there's a turn coming up, isn't there? I'll be fine. I got it. Alright, there we go. Alright, I'm gonna stay here because I'm probably safer here than this plains area that we're about to get to, in all honesty. So let me alt tab real quick so you can see my screen here. Okay, so there's basically two sets I use. One is for the development character, Overeager Jarl, and the other is for the play character, Labrat. I highly encourage you, whenever you get into any kind of server management, to separate the characters. It's going to make it a lot easier to handle everything. Okay, without doing that, you're going to have problems because using dev commands really messes with immersion. So it helps to have separate characters. So when I'm playing on my normal character, I use equipment and quick slots, simple chat, which is really useful for conversing with others. It makes it so that your default chat is to shout, so everyone can see it. It goes to Discord, goes to live chat, etc., etc. I also use crafty boxes. I personally am not a person who thinks that 2D UI, spending a lot of time in it, it's good. Like, maybe that's something, it's like books. Players should have the option to read books, but you shouldn't force players to read paragraphs and paragraphs of text. But that's what we do, right? So I find that Valheim, using a craft from container mod, helps make Valheim, you can just, like, more of your cognition goes into building and combat and other things, and less of it goes into, like, opening boxes over and over again and doing all of that, etc., etc. So other than that, I use Dungeon Splitter, and for streaming and recording content, I increase the gamma, just because Valheim dark content does bad. It doesn't do well, and Valheim gets very dark sometimes. So I just do that. I didn't used to do that, but once I started making the content, I was like, well, I kind of have to be honest, because like you shouldn't ever show just blackness in content that you're trying to get people's attention with. It's like not viable, if that makes sense. Let's see. So Constantine says, no need to wait. Just run by the shore when going to the plains outpost. There's one diverge to distract the goblins. Oh, but it's not the goblins, my friend. You see, I'm talking about things and also traveling down a path trying to survive. And this is Deathsquito land. I know from experience that I may feel safe, but that doesn't mean I'm safe. Even when I'm focused and paying attention, let alone now. So Yannick says, yeah, I'm kind of torn on crafty boxes. Oh, is there beds here? There are, nice. So this is what you're talking about, Ping, right? That's cool. I didn't bring any wood. I'm such a fool. Well, we'll see how much of a fool I am later. Because if there's a Deathsquito, I'm screwed. Like, I can light him on fire. Actually, no, maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe Odin will save me from the Deathsquito. I might get lucky. It might be fine. I don't know, though. We'll see. Yeah, you can see things are kind of hectic on Path of Magic. And it gets more exponentially crazy the further you go. So I'll probably talk a bit about dungeons in a moment, but let me get to Yannick's comment here. So all right, he says, yeah, I'm kind of torn on crafty boxes. I get this. I used. Sorry, I did a hotkey. Sorry, I did a hotkey there that it messed me up. Yannick says, yeah, I'm kind of torn on crafty boxes. I get the suggestion on my server at least once a week. I might actually bite the bullet on it and add it. Like, I don't blame you for being torn, because that's people's attitude with it. And I think it has to do with they're defending sort of the original philosophy of the devs. Because, like, Irongate treats this as a fundamentally important part of the game, that almost as if their game will be worse if there's less of this. Like, they believe that is what they feel. So a lot of players also reflect and respect that mentality. I don't think it's a question of respect or disrespect. Like, Irongate's incredible. For $20, they've gave us such a beautiful, amazing experience. There's things I want to adjust, and there's tools I have to adjust it. Like, it's their game. I'm not saying this is my game, or I'm just adjusting it. You know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for the fact that they made the game available, I wouldn't be able to understand these things and have a means to try different ideas. So, like, it's all thanks to them and Yer and these other people. I don't ever mean to say, like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. It's just like I said, Valheim is a game that's like a sandbox game, but it doesn't, like, properly arm you to experience its sandboxness. And there's a lot of things you can do that will make that happen. Make sense? So let's see. Then Pan says, torn on crafty boxes. Why is that? Is it using resources of other people when in communal base? And Yannick says, yeah, that's my main issue with crafty boxes. Yeah, that's absolutely true. They don't respect chest ownership. And that, yeah, that is, it's interesting because I think you could do that because chest pieces do have owners. So, like, everything that gets built has, like, a creator ID, I think. I know certain things do. I'm pretty sure it's old build pieces. But again, yeah, that's an interesting point, to be honest, because so I can talk a bit about this because this stretch of path this is pretty much it. This is what you get for a bit. We're crossing oceans. What can I say? It takes a while. But basically, I've noticed something that happens on a lot of Valheim servers. And I don't know what to tell you because Palm got me out of that mentality. But when I used to run a public server, okay, I don't know how to break this to people, but when you list your server on Discord, you open it up to grief. That's literally it. It's that simple. Discord and Reddit are very toxic places, and if somebody can get onto your server and they've never read anything you've done, they've never seen anything, they don't know anything about it, the chance of them being a griefer is pretty likely. So while it's kind of ironic because when people make servers, the things that they do when they begin is often like to sort of advertise their server in these places, but in doing so you open it up to the worst of the worst. And I've found that simply by advertising on YouTube and removing convenient access, so like the only way someone can get onto Palm without reading about stuff and without doing that is if someone they know gives them the information directly. So all I have to do is make it available through a series of inconveniences, and it makes a huge difference. And like what I've found is like as I mentioned, like the culture on Palm has become communal, and like it seems more like what Iron Gate originally intended players would do, like work together and help each other and share. But in reality, that's not how Valheim servers operate. The majority of other servers, they're heavily warded. There's heavy restrictions. There's requirements on all the mods. There's rules you have to follow. And like, it's kind of ironic because a lot of the server developers, and I don't mean to criticize anybody who's listening. I'm just being honest about like what I've observed. Like Valheim is a sandbox game. Like we can give players more tools to build things and involve them in the process, and that increases the depth. They get joy out of that. You'll get more long-term satisfaction from players when you involve them. And if you're terrified of griefers all the time, you're just not going to do that. And a lot of people, that's how they behave. They put so much effort into trying to protect their server from griefers that it makes it fun to grief them. Like, from the griefer's perspective, the more you fight, the more you push back, the more strict you are, the more you mistreat people, the more you're aggressive in public wording, it all fuels them. It enables them to validate the behavior, you know? So let's see, I can catch up on these real quick. Yeah, Pan says that sometimes you can auto store loot in people's personal chests, or even like I think you can like take loot out of no, actually maybe the mod ignores personal chests. I think it does. But that's a funny thing, right? So Yannick says it works as long as you have a whitelist. Ah, yeah, for the Discord thing. I advertise on both, and having a whitelist does prevent most griefers, as they have to come make effort to join the server, which is too much for them. They just... Oh, I know that noise. Oh god, what am I gonna do? Oh god, Odin, spare me! Odin spared me! Oh my god, thank you. Yes. Alright, let me address what just happened real quick, and then I'll respond to the rest of Yannick's situation. Why is he up here? Come on, man. Come on. Calm down. What are you doing over here? Alright, so basically, Deathsquitos get killed half the time they attack, but it might have already killed you by the time that happens. And the reason for this is like, I love the effect and the fear of the Deathsquito, but the reality of them corpse running, I like to soften. So whenever possible, I like it when the player feels like they're about to die, but then they don't actually die. So if you learn on Palm, you can run away from Deathsquito, and as long as you don't get hit by that attack, you can keep baiting their attack, and as long as you run directly away from them, right, then eventually they'll get banished by Odin. So if you know what you're doing, you can be unarmed and avoid Deathsquito. And again, this is just a recurring thing on Path of Magic. The idea is to work with Valheim mechanics and make Valheim more long-term Valheim. Make the pointy, gritty bits less harsh and abrasive, and make it more sort of polished in a different way, right? Just like communities do with all sorts of old games, you know? Same thing. So let's get back to what Yannick was saying. So it works to advertise on these other settings, but you have to use a whitelist. And so for those of you listening, he's talking about there's blacklists and whitelists. Blacklist is basically banned. Once you're added to a blacklist, like, you can't join that server. And for those of you, you should know, like, people share blacklists. I view sharing blacklists as a little bit unethical. I'm not saying other people you shouldn't do it, but I've observed how, like, I tend to try and make a game world where people can join, and it's just really inconvenient for them to find and grief people. They don't get the same satisfaction because they just don't, like, it's a different situation, right? Obviously, at some point, somebody will do something and I'll have to roll the server back. I'll have to do something, you know? But at this point, I can say that over 100 unique people have joined, and I've never had to roll something back. I've fucked things up and rolled the server back. The server has crashed and I've rolled it back. But I've never had to roll something back because of behavior of another player. And that is something that was so shocking for me, because when I ran the other public servers, which is the comment that Yannick is talking about that he originally responded to, as I explained, like, when I was running those the other public server, it was griefed a lot constantly, like literally every weekend. And I learned the psychology of the griefers. And, like, I'll share a little bit about it. They're very short attention span, incredibly short attention spans. So they'll join, and what they can immediately access in the center of the world is liable to get messed with or destroyed in some way. If they can find something and really get at it and see it within, let's say, 2 minutes of running from the center of the world, if it's more than that, it's too far away. They're probably not going to notice it. But if they join, and there's not something clear for them to destroy, and they have to run, there's no portals for them to go into, it's not convenient for them to just find the bases straight away, it literally helps protect things. And you can also make things public on the server. So, like, on Path of Magic, everything you do is advertised and talked about on the server as it's happening. Right now, it's a little bit different, basically, because I took down the notifier system to adjust something. But, like, as you chop wood, it says, oh, this player's chopping wood in this biome, this player's doing that in there, this player's doing this here, they died there. And it makes the server very public. And also you can say, like, hello, Discord live chat, right? And you see it says, welcome to Path of Magic. And now I can go into Discord, and then, like, I can say, hello from Discord, right? And then boom, and then you can see this, right? So you can interact that way, and that helps with security on your server. It makes things more transparent, and everybody in your community can see when someone joins and what they're doing. And this is genuinely beneficial for the health of the community. The more you make the server a place that it's inherently hard or okay, not even hard, you can't win that way. Make it unsatisfying to grief. Understand the griefer's mentality and make it inconvenient and unsatisfying. And that is enough to protect in many cases. That is enough to help, especially combined with the transparency where everyone sees them. Because as I mentioned, people share blacklists as well. So, like, if you know anyone who behaves this way, you can remind them that, like, the server dev community at this point is getting more interconnected. So, like, there are literal lists of people who've screwed people over that get shared. And, like, it's completely possible for you to behave badly on one server, and that as a result of that, you're now blacklisted on 10 other servers. So, like, I don't protect Palm that way because I believe that there's other ways to do it. But you should be aware that most of the rest of the community does that. Like, so the moment you screw one person over or get accused of screwing someone over, like, there can be consequences for that. Valheim's a smaller community, so, like, there's absolutely consequences to playing on public servers and, like, not treating people well, if that makes sense. And I think when people feel like they can get something from your server, like, they're more incentivized, you know, to not behave in those ways. Because really, like, they're behaving that way because they're bored, basically, you know. Pan then said, for JP's public server listing experience, oh yeah, so Pan's talking about a video I made on YouTube that you can check out. It's called Valheim Griefers, what griefers do in Valheim. And basically it shows the mentality. I show directly the most intense parts of the griefing. I record little bits afterwards about what they tend to do, what items they use, the things they do, etc. So you can check that out, and that's what I was used to, and that's how other people have that attitude. But for me, like, oof, now it's all, I don't know, it's just different. Let's see, this looks like a great place to, 1 second, I always do that. I wish it wasn't an alt code to get rid of the UI. I need to make it something easy. All right, got a spawn point. This is basically where the mid-game, I would say, the mid-game of Path of Magic starts here at this point. So this path keeps going, but basically we've gotten to the end. We crossed over the ocean. We're now off of the starting continent, and we're closer to the path to Ashlands. I'll refer to this area as the let's say, middle progression of the game. So let's see if I can catch up here. Then Pan said, now Ozu Auto Store, wow, Ozu Auto Store, crafty boxes work well with personal. Oh, that's awesome. So they don't use the personal boxes that are other people's. That's good. Yeah. And so that's what I do. I do Control F3, but I often like press F2 or like. So what I was saying is I want to make it so it's just one button, and I keep forgetting because I hide my UI all the time. I hate seeing UI. Honestly, I love it when games only show you UI when like you need to see it. I find that to be much better. Yeah, so Pan was talking about some explosive things, and in general there's a lot of explosive stuff, and some of it has like grief protection, but to be honest, like when I make the palm layer available for people, I'll have to make it more grief like griefers do a lot of things. And I'll have to do some efforts to make it less intense. Holy shit, what the hell? There's a goblin camp. What did I do? The path? Ah, yeah, a goblin camp got registered there. Alright. I think I'll be alright. Oh god! Oh god. I'm gonna die. That was a quick change of sentiments, to be honest. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Oh no. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad for whatever this nonsense is over here. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. I know what happened. I enabled force resets for all these locations, so now this place is alive again. Full of goblins. Oh god. Okay. Need to go this way. Frickin' ranged monsters are so hard to keep track of, I swear. Luckily I've learned to almost... Oh god, what is this? This is not gonna work! Oh my god. I'm so dead. There's no way this is gonna work. Like, no. Oh, did the lock save me? Did the lock save me? I don't think so. No, fire. No fire. Don't do it, Mr. Locks. Don't do it. I was so close. The freaking platforming. I hate platforming. Why is there a stone pillar to jump on? Out of all the things in the world, a stone pillar? May as well have made it like a core wood vertical beam, like a series of them. Alright, I should eat properly that time. I got level 1 swim. That was hardcore. Honestly, I'm surprised it went that well. Like, I could have really avoided that. I'm really surprised it went the way it did. There's gotta be some food here somewhere. Oh, there's a whole bunch of... I could show off some other mechanics and cause a distraction, but I'll probably just run by stuff, to be honest. Oh yeah, okay. Here we go. Here's some food. I guess I need stamina food, realistically. It's probably all that matters. Alright, I'll be smart. I'm pretty surprised I haven't died more often. This is like a whole... I mean, it's almost like a playstyle. You just try and make it to the end of the path. It's pretty amusing. Believe it or not, it goes all the way to an end game thing, and I don't know if I'll get to that, to be honest, because right now I started later today, so it's 5:40. So my internet will go kaputs in 20 minutes, like clockwork. I must live in an area where the bandwidth, as soon as the businesses turn on or something, it just gets wrecked. So probably I'll have to stop, and then I'll pick this up tomorrow morning at the same time. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, usually starting around like 3:30 or 4 a.m. my time, but it depends. I wake up at like 2:30 and I do chores and stuff, and sometimes it takes me longer to get in the mood, but I've learned that it's better to wait like 20 minutes and be more into it. So here we are, we're rested, and look at this. I lost all my clothes, but at least I died exactly where I need to go. So basically what I got thrown off by is the fact that I added things to the force reset schedule that didn't used to be there, and it altered the geography. Because the goblin camps, they always respawned, but the goblin towers did not always respawn. But now goblin towers respawn. So I'm gonna be a little smarter and not run through this goblin locks infested cesspool as obviously. I think I've already been seen at this point. All right. I don't know how much better this is, if this is better at all, but at least I have more stamina. Oh, freaking Death Skeeto, you get away from me. I don't have to live with bunny hops. Something I've learned, I guess I can talk about how one survives for a minute when you're being chased by a bunch of things, is you can sort of ignore melee monsters as long as you stay moving, because you'll die to melee when you get stuck on something, like a rock or whatever else. But aside from that, it's going to be ranged stuff that actually kills you. Oh my god. Or platforming. What a dangerous, what a way to go. I feel like someone built that in a rush. You know, maybe they were running. I don't know. Funny. I'm not going to get that back. I'm just gonna keep going. As you can see, you want an adventure? Maybe make that part of the path that's currently broken a bit more, a bit more accessible. I thought I was safe here. I don't know why. I knew the shaman was there, but I just forgot. It's so funny. Like, to be honest, I think that's one of the things that makes streaming more fun, is because you get kind of stupid. Don't get me wrong. I play pretty recklessly in general. But when I'm also talking about stuff, it's like I like forget what I'm doing and do instinctual things. So like I'll have nothing to repair and walk up to a workbench while I'm talking about something and click repair. I'm like a robot, like just like going through the routines that I've done recently, like that aren't relevant, you know? It's pretty funny. Nice. All right. Let's see if there's a bed somewhere. I think there is. This is like a little inn, right? Yeah. And so you can see we're getting to the point now where basically it's going to stay developed. Oh no, there's no beds. Of course. There's no beds and no stone. Whatever. But it's been more developed on these parts of the path, but that all actually changes as you keep going down. So we're getting to basically the end of, call it civilization. I don't know what you want to call it, but maybe does Teens have a better? I think this is like her private residence. I don't think there's a spare bed over here. Maybe there's, oh, there is some stone though. So now I can make a bed in the other spot. This is a good spot, Jake. I like your camping attitude. You can just find like beds stuffed into the corners and the crevices. You know, whatever you need to get through the night. You know, if it's good enough, it's good enough. All right. So we're getting to sort of the end of civilization. This is the part where, okay, we, believe it or not, are approximately maybe between 1/3 and 1/2 of the way to the end of the path. And at this point, Oh, no, honestly, it depends what you're considering the path, because the path of magic is the main arterial path from the center of the world all the way through the Ashlands. But there was a path to Ashlands that formed the experience that created the community that made Path of Magic. That path goes from here all the way north. It goes to Hilder and all sorts of other stuff into another meadow. And if you ever want to explore and see a bunch of cool buildings and stuff, then probably you get to this point. There's this area. I'll show you. You can turn left. There's some huge builds, and then it ends. And then it's like the Wild West at that point for the rest of the path. That's the part where I'm going to show you some spots, and we're going to pay attention, because there's areas that need bases, and that's how community progression basically works. Like, there's more and more and more path to develop on. It's just a matter of finding the spots along the path that you can enjoy being on. Make sense? But if you want to just explore some buildings and see the original experience before Expand World prefabs and before all the altered mechanics, that playthrough occurred on the same world. And it's what led to me making paths in the way that I do now. I learned that it's more fun for people if the paths, the main things, are already made. They will make the bases, they will find the spots, but you give them the infrastructure to get to those spots. And it works very, very well that way. I've found that to be a better way to integrate paths, because players still get to make their own paths, but players make paths that are like smaller and more like veins in the body. The server management needs to make the arterial path. So when you see me say arterial, you hear me say arterial path, I'm talking about a main path that is built in a grand way that draws attention, that players can't really match using like plan build and dev commands and these things. And you make them invincible so that players can funnel places. And you need to like dip them into the ground and add danger and elements where there's monsters and these things, and it gives more interest, right? So that's what these kind of things are. They stop monsters from getting onto that part of the path. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep going, and we'll pass by a couple really grand builds. This one here, I guess we can walk through it. Why not? The path actually wraps around it, but this is Indo's. He's one of the original players on Path to Ashland, so before Path of Magic, actually. And a really, really talented builder. Lots of really cool things. Now, I like this place in particular because, like, when people use this alternating brick pattern, I don't know, I love that. I love it so much. I don't like those big walls. I know there are less instances, you know, but there's something about it. It just doesn't have the magic. Doesn't have that same feeling. I just realized, that's going to be a very problematic Grey Dwarf spawner now. Oh, no, the location's removed. It's just the item. Never mind. It'll be normal. on Palm, Grey Dwarf spawners and dungeons and all these things, they are way more dangerous than you're used to. You'll see a different variety of monsters, all sorts of things that you wouldn't expect normally. And it's all about getting you off your feet and getting you used to the fact that, while this is Valheim, this is a different version of Valheim. It is more challenging. There's a lot more mechanics to learn about, even if you're just interested in building and protecting yourself. Like, for example, you can use a builder's bell. So when you find an area, you strike a bell, and all of the monsters run away and disappear. Maybe that sounds unfair, but you can't get loot that way. And what it allows people to do is find a dangerous spot and just go all out. Build to their heart's content, as long as they keep striking that builder's bell. I believe in giving people safety. You can't just make worlds dangerous. But here we have the grand problem of Valheim. As I mentioned, Valheim is a game about over-preparation that never ends up getting used. It's fundamentally important to understand that. And one of the weaknesses in Valheim is its performance in high-instance situations. And what players tend to do is they really enjoy making these huge, grand bases. But it's such an ironic experience because the idea is for other people to use it. But the reality of doing it is such that other people find them unusable. And it takes away the joy other people can feel of building because there's nothing left for them to work on. So that's always something that's important to keep in mind, right? And like this area, for example, these are lessons I learned on the original Path to Ashlands. I learned like the things that players do, how they behave, and how that causes problems for other players, even when the original player has the best of all intentions. It essentially doesn't matter because the way Valheim is designed, there are going to be these circumstances where things play out that way. It's just, I suppose it's the nature of the beast, so to speak. And that's what's happening right now. Like so far, running through, can you tell that the starting area was optimized for multiplayer? Whereas this area was just built out by players organically? No, there is no way. It's one of the most laggiest areas on the server. And it's because there's so many huge builds here. Like I'm over here in this like base area that has everything. And people don't even use the stuff over there, even though it's a beautiful, incredible building. But again, that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what happens in Valheim. It's not just a thing here, it's a thing on like most servers. The experience is very much one of it's very easy to play Valheim and inadvertently take away the joy that you experience from playing the game from other people. And that's something I can talk a little bit about because it's not like it's bad to give people things. It's not bad to have situations where, you know, you give somebody something. But in general, it's better to give people, like, if you want to give another player something that's nice, maybe, like, frame a build for them, or give them some building materials, or give them, like, a consumable food that is strong, but they're going to run out of. Like, these are more generally friendly situations that you're not going to mess people's progression up too much. And, like, let's say you want to build someone a base. It's better that you build the house and leave it to them to furnish it. Like, if you build everything for them, and that I know I talk about this a lot, but I talk about it because it happens over and over and over again. I see it happen on my server. I see it happen on other people's servers, or our server rather. I don't think of Palm as mine. I think of it as like it's something I have a lot of influence and sway over. But at the end of the day, Palm is something that is developed and influenced by many people. Calm down, calm down. But what happens over and over again, yeah, is people over prepare, and in doing so, they take away parts of the game that are enjoyable to others. So the big thing really is, like, when you make things for other people, always keep in mind, like, what does the person enjoy doing? And just because you like that thing, I mean, okay, let's assume everyone's like you. They all like what you like. How do you feel about a fully furnished base that's fully equipped? It's got the latest trench defense warfare technology. It's full, it's got artisan table, it's got black forge, it's got everything you need to keep your Vikings satisfied and happy. Oh, thank Odin. You know? And then what? That is the whole point of Valheim, is over preparation for things that don't end up happening. That is what Valheim is. So when we neglect this reality, like, we end up hurting how other people experience the game. And that's kind of unfortunate, you know, because ultimately we feel more immersion because there are other people there as well, right? So in this case, The lag is a bit different. I think basically what's happened at this point is that I haven't, my client hasn't run the unload unused assets thing yet. So my computer's kind of frustrated that I was running through all those crazy areas. It seems better now though. And we're in the more Wild West part of the path now. And these are the parts where if you've ever wanted to play more sort of Mistlands and you felt like you wanted to experience more of the Mistlands like without mist in these things, well, I'm telling you, there's chances for that now. Because in Path of Magic, there's 2 layers of mist. There is, yeah, hello Jal, exactly. I'm gonna get blown up by something at some point. I'm like, my frame rate's super bad now. There must be something wrong somewhere, like something's overspawned. One second, how many instances do I have? Only 5,000? What is going wrong with my computer? One second. Let's see. Alright, my computer. Yeah, it's because I ran through that area, so there's so many instances loaded, I suppose. The computer's basically like, you have too much RAM. Oh, one second, I'm just gonna clear it so that it works better. I just need to log out and log back in. But basically, on Path of Magic, there's 2 layers of Mistlands. And the first layer is one where there's no mist. So as you saw there, you see more of the terrain and everything. And it's not no mist at all. It's just most of the terrain is, most of the mist is gone, if that makes sense. Not all of it. So Panda, it's not these areas that are laggy. At least I don't think so. It's because I ran through all of those other building areas, as I mentioned. Like when you let players just build things, they over-prepare, produce situations that make the Valheim game engine fail in multiplayer. But basically, one of the things that happens is that Valheim doesn't just unload the assets when you leave an area. So when you run through a 20,000 instance area, a 30,000 instance area, a 40,000 instance area, there isn't a cumulative effect. And you can see how right now it's like completely fluid. So that's what happened, basically. It doesn't, just because you left the terrain doesn't mean that Valheim has run the unloading unused assets routine. And that, I don't know how often it does that. I think it's like once every 30 minutes, maybe. Something like that. There's Diverger spawning nearby me. And so they're telling me the fishmonger mechanic. In Path of Magic, there's lots of different mechanics, right? And one of those things is being able to sell things to a Diverger. So here I'm just going to grab a bed. Somewhere here there's bound to be some space. Boop. There we go. We're just going to keep going. It looks like, let's see. It's 5:59. Almost certainly my internet is about to mess up. So if I just suddenly end, apologies. That's why. I've been trying to in general end before that, but I think in this case I'm just going to keep going down the path. And then the next day, tomorrow, I'll continue this and I'll talk more about the end game on Path of Magic. Ah, so Pan says, unloading previous terrain. Maybe it's what GC max time slice helps with. GC, yeah, I'm wondering, what would GC stand for? I think maybe also, I probably have some kind of... I need to look through the areas. Because this seems like monster AI. This seems like there's more... There's too much AI in an area. So I probably have a mistake somewhere in something that was added that's making a lot of something spawn, or in like a loop. And I can debug these. At some point I'll show people how the debugging process works. Uh-oh, is that Zhao? Whoa. Oh, he's not shooting me. Okay. But this is like it's not normally like this at all, especially with just one person. So something's wrong, and it's probably a huge quantity of something. Basically. Because normally it's not like this. Like, I get a laggy experience in the Ashlands and stuff, but this is intense. And it means that I made a logic error in a script, and instead of there being like 10 of something, there's like 1,000 of it. Something like that. And yeah, you can see how now it's like this. But if I look at instances, like, there's like 6,000 right now. It's not like, before it was that there were too many instances loaded. Whereas now, it could either be my computer, something's happening with the computer itself, or it could be something else going on. But at this point, I'm gonna accept fate, and I'm gonna end it. My computer and my internet are ending. So that was it for the introduction to Path of Magic. Catch me tomorrow where I'll show you how the end game in Path of Magic works, because there's a whole system with boss fights and everything, and we're gonna get more into developing that. So if you want to help playtest the boss fight reworks, well, you could start playing around now, because I'm getting to the point where I kind of understand what's going on with this current era I'm working on and what to do, and I want to move forward into working more on the boss fights. And so I'll need more players to like organically try that and do group stuff together. But that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow. It'll all be about the end game in Path of Magic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.